Teachers of Reddit, what is the most shocking, surprising thing you've seen going on in your classrooms? Kid stuck a craft pipe cleaner in an electrical socket. Cue a flash, a yelp, and blue fuzz everywhere. Socket and cover were both burned black and didn't get replaced for 3 years. Student was an 8th grader. I thought it was a myth. I knew a kid who put a paper clip in an electrical socket and thought wrapping it in paper would protect him from the shock. In grade freaking 10, idiot had to go to the hospital because it screwed up his heartbeat. Back when I was in school, we had 3 of the 6 ambulance teams and the whole county called to out school because one sunny day someone passed the fad around that kids should hyperventilate and have someone push on their chests until they passed out. If I remember, some 14 students had to be checked out and 1 taken to hospital. We would do a variant of this where we would hyperventilate, then stand with our backs to the wall while somebody choked us until we passed out. God dang, high schoolers are stupid. I was a long-term sub for an art teacher that taught in the cafeteria. She warned me about a kinda kiddo named Romeo that had many issues and told me to basically never turn my back on the class while he was in it. I didn't really pay too much attention to it because I was a genius substitute. But anyhow, I turned around to grab something from the art cart and I heard a gasp from the other 24 kiddos. I turned around and he was standing on the lunch table with his pants down, shirt pulled up, and yelling "WHO wants to kiss IT. My name is Romeo." I was freaking mortified. My dad is a teacher and this is his favorite story. As a PhD student, he was teaching American history at a small high school. As he was lecturing, he noticed an odd smell and an enormous football player walking toward him from the back of the class. The football player hands my dad a note which says, "I have just crap myself." Not a word is said. My dad simply nods to the student and the student walks quietly out of the room to handle the matter. My dad, kept the note for 20 years and would occasionally ponder the grammar of crap shitting oneself, instead of just shitting oneself without the extra crap. I miss the extra crap the first read through. Read it again after the last sentence. There was a strange craze of esting in the books and leaving them back in the library. Somehow no one was ever caught. One day, our teacher didn't show up to class and neither did her substitute. Some kid gave a 50-minute lecture on pimpology during that time. I'm intrigued. I went to a small music school where basically everyone smoked weed all day. One day during midterm review, our audio professor yelled at the whole class for being high for about 20 minutes. Nobody knew what to do. A very large, peculiar boy by the name of Thomas was caught masturbating by sticking his willy into the pages of his book and thrusting. Might I mention, typical Tom, as he was referred to, was a junior in high school. I guess he was doing his freaking homework. A student shat in the attic and threw it all over the walls during a break, then played it off as if it wasn't him and invited people to see. He's still in school. Don't worry, you'll have plenty of other chances to get expelled. Not from my time as a teacher, but still relevant. I'm sure I've posted this elsewhere before, but here goes. Way back when I was a youth, there was a guy in science class. Let's call him Dan. Now Dan was one of those kids who for one reason or another failed at all challenges involving common sense. He also liked to crush up chalk and snort it during science class. About the only thing Dan was good for was soccer. He played in the school team and was regarded as our best striker. Anyway, Dan's stupidity came to a head one day during an experiment set up by one of our chemistry teachers. She had a large container of chlorine gas she'd procured prior to the lesson at the front of the class. She explained what she was going to do, what the gas was, and ended her explanation with a stern "Do not breathe this in." Then, she got distracted by something and had to leave the room for a moment. She was gone no more than a second when Dan stood, dashed to the front of the class, opened the container, and took a long, deep, hearty snort of chlorine gas. The airborne ambulance made remarkably good time getting to the school, and somehow saved Dan's life, but it was a while before he came back to school, and he was a changed kid. He couldn't play football anymore, his lungs were permanently damaged, and running even short distances left him gasping for air. Not sure what became of Dan, but he taught me a valuable lesson about chlorine gas. Apparently it was used as a weapon during World War I. I can see why. He almost got a Darwin Award for that. In my classroom we keep a television screen which can be connected to wirelessly. One day I was setting up a DVD about World War II, and it came up in the top right. Billy's iPhone connected. It then proceeded to play the Paris Hilton sex tape. The kid was utterly shocked and later admitted it was a mistake. He was watching it in the back of the room, and somehow connected it to the TV. I've worked with kids for almost 10 years, but nothing prepared me for this year of teaching. I teach preschool and this year I got a student who had been raped. 3-year-old sweet, smart, intelligent girl, dealing with abandonment and rape issues. I've dealt with a lot of sad stories and family situations, but this breaks my heart. Posted this before, but must answer again. I'm a high school teacher in American Samoa, a US territory. Tattooing is a huge cultural thing. A student I know, P, comes to me before school and asks if he can hang out in my room at lunch. Sure thing, I tell him. It's pretty common for kids to grab their lunch and hang out in a teacher's room. Come lunchtime, L comes to my room and asks if P has shown up. They are supposed to meet in my room at lunch. He hasn't shown up, so she sits and waits for him. Soon after, P comes in, carrying his backpack and lunch. I'm sitting at my desk, eating my lunch. Suddenly, I hear a ZZZZZZZ sound. As soon as I hear the sound, I recognize it. I turn my head. L is sitting at a desk with one of her sleeves rolled all the way up. P is holding a tattoo gun in his hand a mere inch away from L's arm. What are you two doing? P does tattoos, miss. He's gonna do something for me on my arm. You can't get a tat in my classroom. L. P. Put away your equipment. You can't give a tat in my room or at school for that matter. TL. DR. Student tried to give another student a tattoo in my classroom. Was really expecting that to go a different direction. I can't claim credit for this story, but it's a goodie that allegedly happened in my buddy's 4th or 5th grade class. So, this 4th grader that will henceforth be known as Conrad apparently went on a family trip to China and came back with a pencil decorated with an intricate dragon design that he absolutely adored. Like during class he would take it out of his pencil bag and put it on his desk just to look at and admire, but never used or even sharpened it. One day, when Conrad left the room to use the bathroom or something, the kid sitting on his right, Jim, picked up the dragon pencil, stuck it in a pencil sharpener, and ground that beautiful work of art until it was just an eraser with a stub, with a tiny amount of the dragon design still visible. When Conrad comes back into the room he seats himself and looks forward, noticing what's become of his most prized possession, and doesn't say a word. He then grabs the sharpened pencil that he'd been using to write, screams, and stabs it through the hand of the kid sitting on his left, Bill, incorrectly assuming he was the culprit. Needless to say Conrad didn't come back to class the next day, or ever again. Not sure what's good with Bill's hand. I'll be honest, I was rooting for Conrad though. I taught choir for several years to 7th and 8th graders. I've seen some bad crap, man. One day I'm assisting another music teacher, very big school, and things are going pretty smooth. I see this one kid looking kind of grey, then he sways a bit, starts turning green. I know where this color changing act is headed, so I signal for the kid to head to the trash can. He made it to the can but then threw up so violently that he sprayed it all over the walls and the double doors. I thought the sweet little sopranos that sat in that part of the room were either going to puke themselves or pass out. I had a hard time not laughing at them. So, I send the kid to the nurse and go look for a custodian. I can't find one anywhere, so I have the secretary page one. Nobody shows up. I go looking again and find the head guy, old retired sailor, hiding in the kitchen doing something so he wouldn't have to clean up the puke. I tell him it's an emergency. The room was about 80 degrees as the HVAC was crap, and head back to the room to help with crowd control. Did I mention there was about 80 kids in the room? The custodian finally shows up and starts to mop the puke up and wipe down the walls. I walk over near him and say something like, "He really made a mess." How the old salty dog replies, in full voice, "Goddamn. Freaking kids making messes all over the goddamn place. I hate this freaking place." The sweet little sopranos were horrified. I had to walk away so I didn't lose it. TL. DR. Kid puked all over the walls in class. Custodian cussed up a storm as he cleaned it. Ark. Willie doesn't get paid enough for this. I'm not a teacher, but my ex-girlfriend was. She just started teaching kindergarten and these two kids had a full-blown relationship. They would hold hands, kiss, and get pee when other kids tried hollering at their partner. Weirded me the frick out when she told me. Dang, kids start early these days. I had a girlfriend in kindergarten. We'd hold hands and spend recess sitting together away from the other kids. Didn't kiss until the very last time we ever hung out. Both of us were moving to other places. She told me to close my eyes and open my mouth. I thought she was going to give me jelly beans. Instead there was a tongue in my mouth. I hope you enjoyed the video. For your binge pleasure, I made a playlist with all teachers and school stories from AskReddit. The link is in the video description. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I post new videos every day. Until then, check another video, or don't. Either way, have a great day you magnificent people.